Well, greetings everyone and welcome. I want to give you our first initial look at leadership lessons in the news. Now, this is a program that should air about once a week, and we'll talk about different leadership items that come up in the news that you may find of value that may help you be a better leader. Of course, sometimes things in the news could be a positive or a negative thing. We'll cover certain issues like, the start of the year is always all the books you should read. We'll talk about some of those books, some recommendations. We'll look at some of the comments from the folks to say, hey, that's a good book or that's a bad book. I read it. What are those going to be? Then we'll talk about some specific skills and technologies that you can use to help make yourself a better leader as long as we find them in the news. On occasion, we will have a guest come on board. Maybe they just wrote a book, or maybe they just read a book, or maybe they did something that is worthy of your knowledge. So let me just give you a brief overview of kind of what's going to happen. So, like for example, there've been a lot of reviews and a lot of things in the news about new books or books that are old that should be read, like the book of the Do Story, How to Tell Your Story. So it really is how to tell your story so that the world listens. Again, it's written by Bobette Buster, and this is an excellent book in the Do series, and is a great way to get introduced to the process of just sitting out and doing. I was listening to some other folks the other day in the news, like the Gary Vaynerchuks and people like that, who say, just do it. Just do it. Don't worry about the quality. It gets out there. Just do it, and your quality will get better. I want you to think about that for a moment and decide if you really want to put stuff out there that is not of great quality. But the bottom line here is just do it. In the book by Bobette Buster, it simply says, hey, keep it simple, be very clear before you even start to do something. So have a sense of clarity before you even get started doing something. And that way you can write and create great content. Now, also, a book that I found of interest in there is a book called The Rhythm of Revival. Now, this book is not necessarily about leadership, but it is a well researched book on the Christian revival. Now, the reason why I bring this up, it doesn't really matter what your religion is, excuse me, but what matters is how do you engage and enroll people when you're a leader. You might find some interest in reading that book. It's called Rhythms of Revival by Ian Randall. I think you might really enjoy that book just from that for that particular purpose altogether. Now, also found something else that came up in the news I think you might find interesting as well. It's called The Top Strategies for Developing Strong Leadership Skills. Okay, the top strategies for developing strong leadership skills. And it comes from the HR Director. Okay, a website called the HR Director. And they give us some controversial ways to look at it. Number one, if you want to develop your skills, you got to realize you got to either sink or swim. So if you're developing somebody, sink or swim. Throw them in. Throw them into the deep end and see if they sink or swim. This type of environment, this type of activity, say, stretches and forces you to grow as a leader because you don't want to fail if you're a true leader. You want to find out everything you can do to swim and to not sink. So your behavior will show that. Number two way they say that you can develop your leadership skills is to start rotating into different departments. Now, this I kind of agree with, and I can see where we can go with this one. You think about it for a second. If I'm starting to learn different departments and how they affect my department, can I not do a better job at running my department? But more importantly, if I'm rotating through different departments, aren't I making myself a better leader for the next promotion? Football coach, a professional football coach who takes his coaches, his running back coaches, his defensive and offensive coordinators, his line coaches, and for 3 to 6 weeks after the season's over with, he tells them to get ready for an interview. And the interview is always for the next position. Well, in that particular field, that next position is going to be overseeing something. So if you're a running backs coach, that next position might be to become the offensive coordinator. Well, you can't really interview for that next position if you don't have the experience. So that makes his team, his coaches, find more experience throughout the year. They'll start paying attention to what the offensive coordinator is doing or what the linebackers coach is doing. or who else is doing. And they'll spend some time there. They'll spend some time talking, rotating through those positions. That's a very powerful way for you to pick up that experience you need so you can manage the whole group. Now, here's one that I think a lot of people need to take a hold of. Seek out a mentor or a coach. Now, the reason why I say a lot of people need to grab this is simply this. Most people, most leaders I've dealt with will say, I already know everything I need to know. I've been through the schools. I've been through the school of hard knocks, is one you hear a lot. I have 30 years of experience. I know more than you know about it. Okay, maybe, but the best of the best always have coaches. Let's talk about just the famous story of Tiger Woods in golf. He's got a swing coach. He's got a putting coach. He's got a body coach. He's got a head coach. He's got all these coaches. The top basketball players, the organization hires coaches for them to go through all this, their body work, their leg work, their shot work, their head work. These people are getting paid millions and millions of dollars a year, and they still go out and get coaches. As a leader, go find yourself a mentor or a coach. If you want to be successful, pay for a coach. Okay. Find you a great mentor. I had the experience early on in my career, it wasn't so early, but midpoint in my career, of running into and being mentored by a great coach. Did not let me get away with anything, did not let me do anything but my best work, but also reminded me of what I was capable of doing. So now I try to bring in the best of coaches, a marketing coach, a sales coach, a um, mental behavior type of coach. Try to bring in the best coaches I can possibly get. So I try to seek out the mentors and coaches. The other thing that this article talks about, expose yourself to new things. Okay? They want you to get out and expose yourself to new things within your organization and expose yourself to new things outside of your organization. So your best, most powerful way to do this is to expose yourself to an industry that has nothing to do with your organization. If you're in hospitality, expose yourself to the aeronautical industry. Expose yourself here or there to a different organization because you'll find your thinking changes. It gets more in alignment with itself, more in alignment with the world, and you become much more creative. Think about exposing yourself to new things. Gain theoretical knowledge. It's the other one they talk about, gaining theoretical knowledge. Pick up a book, do some reading, okay? Do some YouTubing on your skills, on your practice, on what's next for you. Pick it up, get after it. Okay. The one that's always been a bit of a challenge for me, and I don't know if you agree with this, not some of you are going to be this perfect for this, but this ideal of using data, tracking everything or having it tracked for you, and you just learn it and see what's going on and see if it helps. See if it helps you. So I'm sorry, not track, but track data. Track data. Okay. And the last one this article talks about is accept support. It was the second and the last one. Accept support. Accept the help of others. I've been struggling and allowing people to help me. I don't know about you, but sometimes I wonder what that person's after. So I don't really want them to help me. But maybe they help me because they find the vision that I have and they want to be a part of it. Accept support. Accept help. The last one on there kind of goes without saying though. Listen. If you want to be a great leader, you start to listen to what other people have to say and you start to make sure that you're paying attention to it and you're making things happen. Okay? Listen more. Something else that came up in the news. 4 ways to develop your leadership skills in everyday life. This was in the news. I think this was back just a couple of days ago, or a week ago Friday. How do you become a great leader? Okay, how do you become a great leader? Different thought. But one of the things that great leaders do, they make more intentional decisions. Okay. Yes, they make more intentional decisions. I was listening to the leadership leading through terrible times. okay, by Doris Kearns Goodwin. I may not have the book title right, but in that book they talked about 4 presidents who had to lead through terrible, tough times. Abraham Lincoln, Franklin Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, and Lyndon Johnson. They all had these things, these decisions that they had to make, and they had to say, okay, this is the way it is, and we're not going to fight this anymore. I listened to everything, but this is the decision I'm taking, and this is what I'm going to do. Lyndon Johnson in 1957 had to lead the Senate into equal rights. At that time, him being a Southern senator, it wasn't liked. But he decided that he was not going to allow this to happen anymore. So he did everything in his power to get this bill passed. He made that decision despite the facts. You have to make a decision and make that decision the right decision. Make more intentional decisions. Cultivate diversity. Make sure your network is diverse. Don't do like a lot of people do, get around those that you're comfortable with and stick around those you're comfortable with. Get around those that you're not quite so comfortable with. Get around those you don't quite understand. The lesson I got to take from this person is get around those that I disagree with. Okay? Sometimes I don't want to be around people I disagree with because I think, no, they're wrong. But maybe having a diverse network of people I disagree with. But of course, I'm talking about diverse network of color, shapes, sex. Get around that. Spend some more time cultivating your diverse network. The book goes on and on. It has some great things, but those are just a couple of things I thought I'd share from that book. And this is your favorite leadership advice. Okay, now this comes from the Center for Creative Leadership. And it talks about a few of your favorite things that you should have been doing over the last year and need to do this way. Talk about some favorite articles like boost your psychological safety at work. Put up a wall to protect your psychological safety so someone can't take you down. Here's what I'm going to add onto this and ask you to respond to in the comments. A wall around you to protect your psychological self. You don't really need to build a wall. What you need to do is build passion. If you have passion for what you have to do, what you're doing, if you have some passion for that, you're not going to be so well hit and so hard hit by those who disagree with you because you have a passion for it. You're going to drive yourself to that. That's a powerful way. Be authentic. Be authentic to what you need to have happen. Okay, so you got kind of a rough idea now of how we're going to run this leadership lessons in the news. You can always comment if you want to cover something else that you saw in the news, and we'll cover it the next week. You can always just jump in when you're here live with me, jump in and make your comments. We will have people come in every now and then and share. We're going to make this a news desk for leaders, a news desk for leaders. If you're a leader and you want to learn what's out there and what's new and what's happening, what you should do and what you shouldn't do, and every now and then we have a special report from such and such a person who will talk about this skill or that skill. Thank you very much for hanging out today. We will get this broadcast started on Saturday.